On November 24th, a TBM 700 tried to land in Monroe, Wisconsin, in weather that honestly gave it almost no chance. The pilot went missed, started climbing, and seconds later the airplane ended up in a gravel quarry near the airport. Let's see what we've got so far. The airplane was a 2003 TBM 700C2. Tail number November 700 Papa Tango. 2 people were on board, a 43-year-old man from Oshkosh and a 41-year-old from Monroe. Their names haven't been released yet. The flight itself was short, about 90 miles from Oshkosh down to Monroe Municipal Airport. It left around 4:40 in the afternoon. By the time it got near Monroe, the sun was gone and thick fog had settled over the whole area. We're talking a quarter mile of visibility and a ceiling of about 300 feet. For the RNAV approach to runway 12, you're supposed to have 1 full mile of visibility and be able to descend to around 400 feet above the ground. They were nowhere near that. On top of that, the poppy lights for runway 12 were no tamed out. Wouldn't have mattered much, the fog was too thick to see them anyway, but it does underline how few visual cues were available. Now ADS-B shows the pilot flying a normal, stable descent on the RNAV path. Airspeed looks fine, descent rate looks fine, and the airplane tracks the center line cleanly. He reaches minimums, sees nothing, and begins the missed approach. That part is correct, but the moment the go-around starts, the flight path changes. The published missed approach says, climb straight ahead to 3,000 feet, navigate to the waypoint Falcon, and continue from there. Instead, the airplane turns left almost immediately. It climbs briefly, accelerates quickly from around 100 knots to roughly 150, and then descends while still in that turn. Moments later, it impacts the quarry north of the field. We still don't know why that turn happened. We don't know whether it was intentional, whether the autopilot was being used, or what the pilot was experiencing inside the cockpit, but the track shows a deviation from the published procedure almost instantly. To understand how things unraveled this fast, you need to picture the workload in those first few seconds of the go-around. This is a single pilot in a fast turboprop, at night, in fog so thick you can't see a thing beyond the windscreen. There's no horizon, no runway lights, and no tower talking you through it. Everything is happening at once. When you go missed, it's a rapid sequence. Add power, pitch up, manage torque, retract flaps, watch the airspeed, tighten your instrument scan, track the navigation path, make a call on CTAF, and switch mental gears to the missed approach instructions. And all of it happens just a few hundred feet above the ground. In a powerful airplane like a TBM, this transition also includes strong acceleration. And this is where a well-known human factor issue enters the picture, the somatogravic illusion. When the airplane accelerates in dark IMC, your inner ear feels that acceleration as if the nose is pitching up without a horizon. That sensation feels convincing. The natural instinct is to push the nose down even when the instruments say the airplane is already climbing normally. That's how C-fit controlled flight into terrain can happen even though the aircraft is mechanically fine. And if this illusion hits while you're turning, especially while you're busy managing pitch, power, trim, and navigation all at once, the margin for error gets extremely thin. The left turn we see on ADS-B is exactly the kind of moment where a pilot could become disoriented. Again, none of this is confirmed, but the sequence we see, climb, acceleration, left turn, rapid descent, matches the profile investigators look at when spatial disorientation might be a factor. The TBM is a fantastic airplane, but it demands serious precision during a go-around. A TBM 700 stalls around 65 knots in landing configuration, but stall speed rises whenever the aircraft banks. A shallow turn might raise it just a little. A deeper one can raise it by 10, 15, or even 30 knots. That means that if your airspeed, pitch, trim, and bank angle aren't perfectly aligned during the go-around, you can get closer to the stall margin than you realize. With 700 horsepower up front, lots of torque, and flaps moving, the airplane can feel busy during the transition to the climb. That's not a flaw, just physics. We've seen this kind of risk in previous TBM accidents. In Lansing in 2019, a TBM stalled during a go-around after a steep bank at low speed. In Truckee in 2024, A TBM 960 crashed in IMC during a missed approach after several autopilot mode changes and a tightening turn. Each time, investigators looked at workload, automation usage, bank angle, stall margin, and spatial disorientation. Those same questions will likely be asked here. Automation is another important piece. The TBM's avionics can fly a clean, perfectly stable missed approach if the go-around button is used correctly and the autopilot is engaged after a safe initial climb. But many pilots instinctively hand-fly the first part of a go-around because it feels safer. In reality, that's often when workload is highest and mistakes are most likely. We don't yet know how the pilot of November 700 Papa Tango was managing automation. The avionics data, if recovered, will answer that. Before wrapping up, I want to bring in one more data point, not to link the accidents, but to give a bit of context. Just 6 weeks earlier, another TBM 700C2 crashed near New Bedford, Massachusetts, November 111 Romeo Foxtrot. That airplane took off into a nor'easter, requested an immediate return, and crashed less than 4 miles from the runway. Weather was poor, workload was high, and the airplane was at low altitude in IMC. Different circumstances, different phase of flight, but the same general environment where spatial disorientation, automation management, and decision-making become critical. November 700 Papa Tango and November 111 Romeo Foxtrot are not the same accident, but they both remind us that high-performance singles are unforgiving when weather, workload, and low altitude come together. So here's what we do know about November 700 Papa Tango so far. The airplane flew a stable approach down to published minimums. The weather was far below what was needed to land. The missed approach began normally but diverged almost instantly from the published path. The airplane accelerated, turned left, and descended into terrain just north of the airport. And here's what we don't know yet. Why the airplane turned, what the pilot intended, whether the autopilot was used, what the instrument scan looked like, and whether spatial disorientation or stall margins played a role. Those answers will come only from the NTSB once they process the avionics, wreckage, weather data, and pilot background. Until then, all we can do is walk through what the early information suggests and talk about the safety lessons that are already clear. Respect weather minimums, fly missed approaches exactly as published, and stay fully committed to the instruments when the visibility goes to zero. When the factual report comes out, I'll break it down here on this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.